Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm talking to you. It's Jim, and we're going back up the river today. So, as for what we're going to talk about, well, consider it a little bit of a post-AMS wrap-up. You know, as long as hopefully my camera doesn't get too hot here, but, you know, well, actually not AMS, NWA wrap-up, you know, from Pittsburgh. So first of all, if you're probably wondering, how'd that trip go? Well, it actually went pretty good overall. Got to see a lot of friends, meet a couple new ones, even, you know, be able to talk to a couple of younger people. And to be honest, as I've said in previous conferences, the next generation is looking good. I'm really happy about that. As for, you know, how the trip went to Pittsburgh, not too bad. You know, I mean, nobody can really complain. I mean, the flight there, no problem. Flight back, 1 hour delay because there's low clouds here in Minneapolis. Apparently used the same plane going back and forth from Minnie to Pitt, so, oh well. It happens. But as for the conference itself, definitely some good stuff talked about. You know, apparently we're still two years out until we get the threats in motion type of warnings. Basically, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, right now you got like a box, and then all of a sudden you can shrink it, and then new one with the new big box. What this threats in motion is going to do, if it's done correctly, is it's supposed to be able to have, like, say, one size box for, you know, like 30 to 45 minutes, depending on, to an hour, depending on the type of threat. And then what's going to happen is, instead of just the big box shrinking to a small one, you're actually going to have the full box move, which is going to look a little funky. I mean, at first it'll look funky, but actually it's not that bad. I mean, it actually is being thought of that way as a way to sort of give better lead time. So, you know, think about something like that. And, you know, it's sort of like, so you don't, for example, like, hey, you live here in Cottage Grove, you know, you have a warning just out, you know, you're in Cottage Grove, but you know storm's eventually going to go to, you know, eventually it's going to go one way or another over to Afton, but you're not sure if it's going to be severe. So they put the box up to Cottage Grove, but not in Afton. Then about 30 to 35 minutes later, when the storm gets towards Cottage Grove, oh yeah, new box, now we get Afton. Well, with this new system, within about 10 minutes of Cottage Grove getting warned and then getting about a half-hour lead time, if it all works the way it's supposed to, pretty much 10 minutes later, then Afton would get its warning. And then, you know, everybody would still have 30 minutes. You still have plenty of time. Nobody's panicking. Nobody's going nuts. I mean, theoretically, it should be all right. What it actually does in real life? Let's see. You know, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. On top of that, they did actually a pretty good... They actually had like a one afternoon full of stuff for flooding, and the flooding base that they were looking at, Agnes. Yes, I know in Northeast PA, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those not outside of, not from Northeast PA, Agnes was only a Cat 1 hurricane when it came on shore. Then it went over to Carolinas. Then, right when it was about to go through New Jersey, all of a sudden it met a front that pretty much stalled over, you know, over northern Pennsylvania between, you know, I-80 and Route 6. Then instead of, you know, everything just dissipating or bouncing, they decided to combine forces. And about 15 or so inches of rain later across the Susquehanna River Basin, let's just say Wilkes-Barre got to a record crest on the river, and it wasn't a good picture. I mean, we're talking, you know, at that point, that was the costliest disaster ever, whether from a flood, hurricane, whatever. And this was a couple years after Camille. So, I mean, we're pretty much talking, you know, Elmira, Corning, Binghamton, Towanda, Wilkes-Barre, Berwick, Bloomsburg, you know, pretty much all the way down past Harrisburg. Everybody just got absolutely sloshed. And it took months to clear up, and pretty much that was right after that is when everybody started considering, oh yeah, let's try to get a better federal response to all this, because this definitely wasn't good. So what we end up with? Well, a couple years after Agnes, pretty much right after that, and then came TMI, 3 Mile Island, that little partial meltdown mess. And then that's when we got FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That basically is now who comes in after a big disaster to be able to coordinate things like, shelter, food, stuff. Local authorities still take the majority of that. But what goes on is FEMA pretty much, comes in as the coordinator. Because before, you really didn't have much coordination. And if you watch the Agnes documentary from that was done by the Wilkes-Barre Preservation Society, yeah, it was a big mess. You had several different places going nuts. You had HUD, you had everybody else. You had Mitt Romney's dad basically getting yelled and screamed and bitched at. Yes, that's Mitt Romney's dad, who used to be governor of Michigan, then became the head of housing, urban development. And the Valley gave him an earful. Eventually, everything got rebuilt. I mean, thank God we had a powerful representative like Dan Flood. I mean, let's face it. Our representative with the handlebar mustache like Snidely Whiplash. He also had damn big power. If it wasn't for the fact that he was the head of the Appropriations Committee, we probably would, Wilkes-Barre Scranton would definitely not be the same. But because we had him, I mean, heck, he even was good thing that we didn't necessarily get the Susquehanna dredged, even though he wanted to put a naval base in Wilkes-Barre. Never got to do that, but, it is what it is. And then, after that, you had some stuff about some fire weather, and a little bit of climatology, usual type of stuff you'd see at a weather conference. One other thing, though, there was there were two other things that I was at. One of them was actually a little bit of a teaching session for fire weather. And let's put it this way, I knew just a hair about it, but not really much. After this session on Sunday, I actually learned a lot more. I even had participated in a couple of one of the exercises where we actually had to come up with a briefing after learning some of this quick stuff. And I actually did pretty good with that. Pictures, believe it or not, on Twitter. Just look up the hashtag NWAS22. You'll be able to see the pictures from the conference on Twitter. And yeah, I was featured in one of them. Thanks, Trevor, for taking that. But then after that, on Monday night, there was the quote research operational nexus. Basically, what that is basically you got the people who do the research on different stuff between modeling, forecast, operations, that type of stuff, and then you bring in the people who actually have to put the stuff together into warnings that people can understand. Yes, people like me, people like at the Weather Service offices, etc., and pretty much have a chat on different topics and see where things go and see, hey, what can each side do better to help each other, let's make this a happier enterprise. And that's actually quite positive for 2 hours. If anything, we probably could have filled all night, but, some people had to get over to the broadcasters' dinner over at the Hard Rock. Because this is in Pittsburgh, that's Station Square section, so yeah, it's right near the Hard Rock. And, yeah, that was a party. One thing I will say about it is, yes, they also had karaoke there. And no, I was not able to come out of karaoke retirement on that Monday evening. Even though I was wanted to, but apparently a DJ didn't want anything by Huey Lewis in the news. The one I wanted to do is Heart of Rock and Roll. Oh well. hey, maybe AMS 23 in Denver, as long as I don't have to worry about the altitude problems. But I mean, I would have done that. I mean, then again, I could have picked weirder songs, like Cream from Prince, or or even Perfect World from Huey Lewis, or I didn't want to do California Girls again. I'm sorry, or just a Gigolo by David Lee Roth. He was the one that did that one. That would have been a little slower pace, but having me sing that song, that might have made some interesting audience comments. That all being said, if you want to get because it was mainly broadcasters that were there, even though there were non-broadcasters as well, I will give this a bit of advice. If you want to see broadcasters totally with their hair down, give them a semi-open bar and give them karaoke. Things were actually pretty wild there for a while. Nothing indecent, just a little wild, and everybody was happy. I mean, I could tell that there were no angry drunks in the room, which is real good. Angry drunks are never a good thing. But hey, maybe at AMS 23, maybe next year's NWA, wherever that ends up, maybe I might come out of karaoke retirement. We'll see. And one other thing on the stuff from Agnes. If you may have wondered, if you saw me on Facebook or Twitter mention, I did get Chick Shinny's name put in there. Well, the guy who did the presentation on it originally, he didn't have anything there. Then I let him know where I was from and everything, and told him, hey, you gotta be sure you mention Chick Shinny, Mackinac, or Nanny Coke in there. Well, he found the picture from Chick Shinny right along Route 11 with the cascading water coming off Chick Shinny Mountain, onto 11. That works. Hey, think of it this way, folks. You got mentioned in the scientific presentation. Not all towns get to do that, so congratulations. And one other thing also for PA residents. I don't know if you probably know about Emergency Management Agency, how they hired a meteorologist. That was the thing I was actually trying to get several years ago, but I didn't get it. Well, I actually met Mr. Jumper, who was there for the meeting, and he's actually a pretty cool guy. Good good emergency management guy. You're definitely in good hands with him. Now if only PennDOT would listen to him, but come on, we're talking PennDOT. That being said, one little thing about Mr. Jumper that you might not have known, especially Valley peeps, you might want to know about this. He's from Trucksville. Yeah, he's a Dallas Mountaineer, folks. He actually is he knows the valley. He's from the valley. He's from the back mountain area actually, but close enough. He knew where Nanny Coke was, so that's always a plus. So, I mean, at least that part of the conference generally went okay, Yeah, I didn't go to the Pittsburgh baseball game Tuesday night. They ended up getting a quick shower there, and people were pissed. It's like, models were hinting at this, folks. Oh, well. As for anything else that happened in Pittsburgh, Wednesday night, last afternoon presentations, and the night after, before I flew back on Thursday, me and a whole bunch of other people from NWA, about 20 or so of us, went for evening supper. We ended up getting to the Church Brewery up in Pittsburgh. Pretty good beer, by the way, first off. And also their pierogies were actually pretty good. Yes, I got some pierogies to go with my sandwich for dinner. Go figure. But On top of that, we had 2 tables. One was the usual people I knew. The other table that I was on, I actually got to have dinner with Greg Carbon. And anybody in the weather industry would know who that is. If you don't know, he is basically one of the top people in the weather field today. He's basically is not only a chaser, but he's also a synoptic guy, really good synoptic guy, and he's also a really good guy to have a conversation with and to listen just to his stories. It's amazing. You know, definitely it was an honor to be able to have supper and be able to chat with him and a couple others. Then, him and the others wanted to go a couple other breweries. I'm usually 1 or 2 beers, I'm done. So I had a little adventure going home. Hit my first bus just fine. Then I got on the train to go back across over towards Station Square. Only problem, they weren't stopping at Station Square at night, and I didn't know that until it was too late. So I ended up on the South Hills, and then eventually making my way down back to Station Square, but it took a little while, and I might not have been in the best section of Pittsburgh, but hey, I survived. I made it back, got back to the hotel. You know, I'm here talking to you, so obviously it couldn't have been that bad a section of town. And everybody was it was generally a good trip. After I got home, I was able to go to a soccer match, get an oil change done in the car. We'll see what happens. Basically I've got this week. I've got a game on Saturday night. Well, Saturday afternoon, actually. It's an afternoon game here, and hopefully we don't have overtime this weekend. We shouldn't. Next weekend we probably will. But, the Saturday game we did great. Last night's game, today's September 1st, so that was the one on October 31st. Well, it was not good. I didn't watch it. That wasn't available to me personally because Sling TV doesn't have Bally Sports North. May not have been the worst thing last night because, well, our defense, let's just say they suck, they blew, and a couple other choice words that would not be a family show. Yeah, that bad. It was that bad. Lost 3-0, but I heard it could have been a lot worse. So, hey, there's always a Saturday game, plus Penn State's playing tonight. Probably won't be there with the Alumni Association, though. I may, but odds are probably not, because I have to work 9 hours tomorrow. And also, I have a TCMS officers meeting tonight. We got to get last stuff planned out for the upcoming chapter year. So, it is what it is. First game, game against Purdue, we're just going to have to, just have to miss that. But the second game, should hopefully be there. I'll do what I can. As, and hopefully Penn State, I hear Clifford's gonna be starting tonight. Hopefully he'll actually stay healthy this year. God willing. If he does, I think we might actually not do too bad. But then again, some of the stuff I saw last season, if Villiers were to be playing, bring on the quarterback from Ottawa. Let's get some CFL QB. Let's get some featured CFL QBs going. If last year was any indication, he definitely is CFL bound. Could even play NFL, but that might be, he might be just a bench player. But CFL, oh, hell yeah. Somebody in the CFL's got to take him. I hope Hamilton, because let's face it, our quarterback situation is just not good right now. I'm sorry. Our line isn't the greatest, but the choices in QBs that we have just is not good. Not good at all. You know, we need some help in that position badly. So, hopefully Villieu, after he gets through Penn State, will actually get up to Hamilton and do some work. Because if Hamilton doesn't take him, let's face it, Calgary will. And I'm sorry, but Calgary, yes, it is a great place to develop quarterbacks, but also it's my older brother's team, and I'm sorry. I want to actually be able to beat my older brother's team. Not have a really, really ugly season like Hamilton's having this year. You know, Oski wee wee, Oski wawa, eat 'em raw, go Cats go. But I mean, talking about others, going back to the soccer for a minute. Hell, Minnesota's biggest problem is their defense. I mean, as I said, this last game, ugh. And the one that we actually did win still wasn't the greatest, but we managed. As for who's coming up, hopefully we do better against Dallas, but, that's going to be time, wait and see there. As for my older brother's team, though, they actually have a chance at a supporter shield now. And let's face it, Philly not only has a really good team in the East, but I'll even say this much: their youth program to build up talent from the ground up, best in MLS. I mean, they've sold players the last several years. Only Dallas has sold more. And even then, not by much. And Philly might even be able to sell a couple more coming up this season. So at the end of the season, we'll see. But Minnesota's still in the playoff picture, at least for the moment. So there still is a dream for the match that Alexi Lawless would definitely hate. He does not want to see this one. Philadelphia, Minnesota for the title. It would also be apropos because that was actually the first full game of the MLS regular season. So why couldn't you end it with the same matchup? Even though, let's face it, Philly's offense right now, talk about hot as hell. Our defense would definitely need to shape up so we don't get blown out down at Subaru Park. Philadelphia, Philadelphia would be nice if they win, but I'm a Minnesota United fan. And I'm sorry, but it's got to be the loon over the dupe. And side note on that little dupe thing on Philadelphia, let's face it, when it comes to the dupes, I bet you I know the reason why they actually use that song for their celebration, and it does something to actually come back a little bit to when I worked at a mini mart, the one manager I had, where he said basically for dance songs to really catch on, you got to be able to do it when you're drunk. And well, Philadelphia sports fans and having a few brews, that's a given. And also, let's face it, their song is easy. Doop, 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 doop. It's like one word modified how many ways? How much easier can it be for a fan who has a couple in them? Then again, I'm hoping that Philadelphia does meet Minnesota for the title. That instead of the dupes being played, we end the match with some Wonderwall, from Oasis. Oh, what else is going on? Well, it is Labor Day weekend, so I hope everybody's coming up. So I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend out there. At least tomorrow, one more hot day. But on the weekend it's supposed to be upper 70s, low humidity, with a lot of sunshine. Can you really ask for anything better at the beginning of September? no matter where you are, much less up in Minnesota, much less like say in Minnesota or Pennsylvania. No, you really can't. I wonder why that cop has got his lights on. Anyway. Let's see, gotta wait here. Gotta leave a gap here after all. You know, can't block an intersection. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, it is going to be good, you know, relax at home in a couple minutes. Everybody will be happy. As for anything else going on, I don't have too much going on, you know, besides Saturday afternoon at the soccer game. Sunday and Monday, I mean, it is going to be what it is. I don't know when the Eagles play this weekend. It'll be interesting when they do. Hopefully, we won't get blown out like we did last week. You know, you can only hope. And as for anything else going on, you know, hey, hopefully in the North End things stay, you know, generally calm, because that's all we want. We just want a calm day, calm weekend. You know, everybody have their hot dogs and their brats and their burgers, maybe a brew or two, and just be happy. You know, celebrate the fact that, you know, this upcoming holiday is honoring basically all those that work for a living. Whether it's the police, whether it's the people at the factory, like where I work at, whether it's at the hospitals, the weather offices. You know, it to celebrate. That's what it's for. Is basically for everybody that labors for a living. That's your day. And I'm cool with that. So now I'm home. That's pretty much all for today. Until next time, it's Jim Marusak on September 1st, 3:36. Have a good afternoon. Bye.